even when the pitchers are doing better, when that bullpen's called on, we got to have a good, strong bullpen.
Yeah.
The fielding, it'll get better. I mean, we made some spectacular plays.
Yeah.
But we made, I think we made at least 2 errors in each game. And one of them was on Sunday where they had 2 errors on one play. So, I mean, they're going to get the routine plays and be more consistent. Defense be consistent on those, on the regular plays, on the routine plays. Clean that up. On Saturday, the second game, that offense came together. I thought that really got to carry over from Saturday to Sunday, but unfortunately it didn't. But, way too many strikeouts looking. Don't be over aggressive, but, work some counts. Banjoff.
Yeah.
What can you say about him? Leading off,
Mm-hmm.
One at bat, he had 30. He made the pitcher pitch 34 pitches.
Wow.
So
yeah, I hear you, Bob. Well, Bob, I appreciate you calling again. Are we going to expect to hear from you next Friday?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, Bob. We'll let you go, man. Appreciate you listening.
Okay. All right. Hey, and one more thing.
Yeah. What's up?
I was going to throw this in
real quickly here, man.
Softball team, the first weekend, they went 2 and 4
mm-hmm.
that first weekend. Last weekend, they went 3-1.
Yeah,
they could turn around. It's just the first series.
Very early
this weekend. Win the series.
Very early in the season. Bob, have a great rest of your Friday, man. Appreciate you calling in.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Love you, Bob.
That's the GOAT, Bob. Appreciate him calling in every Friday with his thoughts. All right, let's 402-464-5685. Let's talk Fred Hoiberg here. So announced last night, Trev Alberts on the radio kind of talked about had several productive meetings with Fred Hoiberg and has decided to retain him for at least one more year. I was thinking about a couple ways that we can look at this. And once again, send in your thoughts, 402-464-5685, the Starter Heyman text line, or feel free to call in as well real quickly. But I was thinking about this multiple ways. And with Fred Hoiberg, it's one of the more interesting angles that I kind of wanted to discuss with you, Rico, was, I mean, is there an amount of wins or a number of wins, I guess, next year that will sit at the end of 2023,
mm-hmm.
the season in spring of 2023, and say, all right, this was a good move. This was a good move. Is there an amount of wins? Because now this season, I'm not saying it's a complete wash or that we should just put it on the back burner, but now for me personally, I've started looking towards next year. Now that we have a clear decision on what's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
I don't expect them to beat Iowa. Hopefully they can stay competitive tonight with it being senior night. And I want to talk a little bit about, Bryce McGowan's and not legacy,
his future,
but how is he going to be remembered if this is his last game? That's a really, really fascinating.
If this is his last game,
or, last time at PBA, last game at PBA.
Yeah. That's like, what, is he not going to play the last?
No,
2?
yeah, exactly.
3?
Yeah, I know something you don't. No, no, last game at PBA. And so I want to kind of talk about that here. Once again, we'll be joined by Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald at 2:30 to talk a little Husker baseball.
He's down in Texas.
He is. But first, I want to talk basketball, because what does this mean for the program? How does fan excitement change with Fred Hoiberg being the coach next year? I'm really interested in what people have to say.
I truly think that you're going to see a downtick in season tickets and possibly attendance. Even, everybody's always excited for that first game of the season, but, bringing back Fred Hoiberg with the not great record that he has so far in 3 years at Nebraska, there will be a downtick in ticket sales, a downtick in season tickets being bought or used for the men's basketball program. But you were asking about, at the end of 2023, if there's a win total that would make people think that this was a good move. And I don't really think there is. I mean, I believe if you are at above or a couple of games below 500 and you've been competitive in just about every game. I mean, if you get blown out like once, maybe twice, that happens. That happens to everybody. Everybody gets blown out. You be the best team in the country, of course, unless you're undefeated, and you're gonna lose a game here or there. And if you're not the best team in the country, you're gonna get blown out by teams much better than you. So if they can keep it close in every game and they can be a couple games under, right at, or a couple games over 500, I think that would be considered a successful season for Hoiberg, because it's not an all or nothing approach with basketball right now, because they haven't been close really in any of their game, or not in any, but in a lot of their games, unlike the football team where you had 9 losses by single digits. So you're expecting but you're hoping for a massive jump and to be competing for the division crown. Whereas in basketball, there's no division crown, but you're not expecting this team to make a jump from the worst in the Big Ten to competing as the best team in the Big Ten. You're just hoping for a middle of the pack finish. And if that happens, I would believe that most people would consider that a successful season.
Well, the more I was thinking about this, in terms of the whole wins and the number of wins that would keep Husker fans happy. And we've talked about how 14 wins will sell out PBA and everybody will be happy. The problem that I have with everything that we've seen over the last 3 years is that Nebraska has had 7 wins all 3 years. Now, obviously, you have the COVID year in there. That was unconventional, but you could argue that they played better basketball that season than they have at some points in this season. That unfortunately, that's the reality of it. Fred Hoiberg is 21-65 overall in his time at Nebraska. Like I said, 7 wins a season for 3 years. He is 1-30 on the road. That's and their one win. Crazy. Their one win came at Penn State on Valentine's Day, I believe, his first year on the job. So with this, Nebraska, we've kind of talked about how PBA has lost its
luster.
Yeah, and the toughness of an area to play in. Like it's not hard for a team to come in and play at PBA like it used to. And an easy fix to that is winning and staying competitive. And so I sit back and I look at that number of 1-30 on the road and I say, okay, statistically, you don't have a shot to win any games on the road, whether you're playing number 3 Purdue and you're down by 20 within the first 4 minutes of the game, or you're playing Northwestern on the road. And once again, you're still down by 20 because you aren't competitive. And that's what it's been this year. So with that, I look at that and I go, okay, you're kind of taking yourself statistically. Now there are those situations where you may be competitive and have a chance to win it at the end. But then I also look and say, okay, you take yourself out of it on the road before you even tip. And then what are you at home? I guess that would make him, 20 and quick math here, 30. So it would have been 20-35 at home. So still, that's not a good record.
No.
And you're still losing those games to Western Illinois. So that's something, in my opinion, that has to change. They got to get some kind of pizzazz back at PBA.
You got to lock down home court.
And with that, like we talked about it, you get 12, 13, 14 wins in a season, and PBA will be at least 85% full, which creates a great environment for college basketball.
It'll be loud.
But the sad thing about it is you need to double your wins every year to get to that point. And still at that point, you are not making the NCAA tournament. You're probably not making the NIT.
If you've got 14 wins, no.
So that tells me
depending on who you beat.
Depending on who you beat, the whole quad 1 and everything.
Yeah.
But then that's a whole nother discussion if you are beating quad 1 opponents
and
but
losing to quad 3 opponents. That's a discussion for a different time.
Exactly. But so I sit here and I look at the numbers and the things that we can point to, and over the previous 3 years, unfortunately, nothing has changed. And so obviously the money plays a part, and I'm not saying that that's the only reason that they kept Fred Hoiberg. It's wild to think that somebody is able to a reduced buyout is $11 million reduced.
For a person who has 7 wins this season.
Yes, I wanted to tweet something out last night about how it's wild that a guy can reduce his buyout and it's still $11 million, but I didn't know how to word it. because
Just like that.
yeah, a reduction still is $11 million. Like,
And that's a pretty
That's
sizable
still-
reduction.
that's still a sizable. Well, yeah, it's $7 million. Number one, 7.5, and it's still $11 million next year.
like
Like, are we
who
going
takes off $7.5 million and still pay double-digit millions?
there may be in college basketball, number one, after a few years already in the program.
Goodness
Like
gracious.
after, if you fire a coach year one, then the buyout's obviously going to be a little bit more and all that. But
Bill Moose made sure his coaches were taken
Yeah.
care of.
it's unbelievable. John says this: "Hi guys, if Coach Hoiberg wasn't coming back next year, would Nebraska have lost players from the next recruiting class and any red shirts?" So let's address that one first. Personally,
That's a hard one.
I think it depends who you bring in. I think
Like next recruiting class or this recruiting class? Because technically,
yeah.
so
they
they've
are
signed their NILs, but it's happened before where a kid signs their NIL, a coach gets fired,
Yep.
and the NCAA allows them to get out of them. So with these guys coming in, if Hoiberg were to get fired, I'm not sure, but maybe those guys wanted to play for Hoiberg, maybe they
Yeah.
wanted to play for the University of Nebraska. That's a hard one to say. But the money's a part of that. The recruits that are coming in, I mean, you've got some pretty solid guys coming in, so that also might be a part of it.
I will also say this. I mean, like Rico said, I think one of the guys that actually got out of his LOI was Xavier Johnson, who was a recruit under Tim Miles and Kenya Hunter. Then they obviously left. Kenya Hunter left a couple years before Tim Miles did, but he got out of his LOI, went to Pitt, now transferred to Indiana, where Kenya Hunter's an assistant coach.
He
So
played with Trey McGowan.
that tells you, like, there are ways that if you get the right guy, this recruiting class can stay together.
Mhm.
And because at the end of the day, unfortunately, Nebraska doesn't have the pizzazz in men's basketball where they're coming to play for Nebraska. That's the brutal reality, unfortunately. So when we're sitting here, yes, you can always expect attrition, but also, John, like, let me ask you this. Is there a way that they don't have to worry about attrition this year when they keep Fred Hoiberg? Because if you're a guy sitting on the bench, how do you feel about a 7-20 loss season?
Yeah.
How do you feel about a one win, maybe at best two, if you win tonight against Iowa? How do you win? How do you feel about that?
Unless he is truly selling
Yeah.
what he has planned, and they totally believe in him, and they think that they can get this turned around. It would be, for me, it would be hard to come back to this.
I
What's up,
couldn't
Nate?
disagree with you guys more. I think if Fred Hoiberg leaves, you lose the entire recruiting class.
Interesting.
That's how college sports work these days.
Not all the
you
time.
I would disagree.
I mean, you might keep a couple, but the entire recruiting class, I guarantee the day that Trev Alberts decides that Fred Hoiberg is gone, if that's the decision that he made, I promise you those guys would have re-entered their recruiting. I guarantee it.
I don't
They
know
might
about
have
that.
come back to Nebraska, but I guarantee the day that he was decided that he wasn't going to be the coach, they re-entered their recruitment. And at this point in time, does it matter if you lose guys on the bench? Something needs to change.
That's
I mean,
what
we're just going to keep the same product that's failing?
Nate,
I mean, who
that's-
cares?
Nate,
You
that's
have
exactly
to have
what I
a
was
basketball
saying.
team.
Oh, you do have to have a basketball team, but why not give these freshman recruits a chance? Who cares at this point? You've lost 20 games in 3 straight seasons. Throw someone out there. See what happens.
Well, it's
Who
not
cares?
saying
Well,
it's
it's
not
not-
saying that the guys on the bench are
Yeah.
automatically going to start if you lose, however many people, if you bring in freshmen, whatever, what have you. It's just saying you need to have people who have been there, who have gone through
I
the
agree with
trials and
that.
tribulations of the Big Ten, and know,
Yeah.
they know what building has what class.
But is
They
that
know
our
how to
biggest
get around
concern right
campus.
now?
That
I don't
you
think
gotta
that
have
should be the biggest
You got to
concern
have
right
some
now.
sort of camaraderie. If you got a bunch of freshmen coming
Yeah.
in, they don't know how to navigate
I agree with
town.
that.
If they get lost, if they can't make it to class on time, you're going to have some problems.
I agree with that. I entirely agree with that. But I don't think the top of your priority list right now is making sure that your bench players stay in Nebraska.
That's not.
I think your biggest priority
needs.
needs to be keeping your recruits.
And that's why you're keeping your coach, maybe.
I agree. And that's what I've said all along is if you lose Fred Hoiberg, which obviously that wasn't the decision that Trev Alberts made, I genuinely believe that recruiting class would have tanked. Like you guys said, there's 3 straight seasons of 20 losses.
Yeah.
And somehow out of all of this, you have the 7th best recruiting class in the Big Ten.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen if you don't have Fred Hoiberg. I just don't believe that. If you have another coach, I don't believe you keep the seventh best recruiting class.
I will
Does
also
it
say
depend on the
this.
coach?
No, time out. I will also say this. They had their best recruiting class in school history last year, and they still have 7 losses. So who's
7
fault
wins.
or 7 wins? So whose fault is that?
I don't
Like
know.
at this point, I think, and rightfully so, Husker fans are tired of hearing about how good the recruiting classes are
I agree
in
with that.
whatever sport.
It's like- yeah,
Because
it's like
guess
football.
what? You still have 7 wins. So I honestly,
I think there's going to be a lot of coaching changes too, though. I think that's what goes into it. I think
Absolutely.
Trev alluded to that too.
absolutely.
So I think the entire style of play might look a little bit different next season.
See, and that's something that needs to change. Is that this team, this coaching staff needs to develop an identity and a
I
plan.
completely agree. Completely agree.
And so, like, part of me is like, here's what I will say. I don't care about the flashiness of the recruiting class. Yes, it's great because it gives us something exciting to talk about, and it gives us exciting, high optimism for the season.
He gives you big names that you know.
But I do
Yeah.
not care if Nebraska gets a 5-star or a 3-star or a walk-on if they are winning 15 games in a season.
Are you more confident with a 5-star winning 15 games, or are you more confident with a 3-star?
I can't answer that because we've seen both, and they've all won
And
only
I-
7
and
games.
that's true.
No, hold on. They won 15 or more games with more 3-stars and 4-stars than they have with a 5-star.
That was
Yeah.
also a different coach.
Exactly.
So-
So then that's where you ask the question, is it the guys that are being brought in, or is it the guys that are coaching the players? Like, that's where you ask the question, and I don't
And
know
I think
the answer to that.
I think next season we'll find out.
Absolutely. And
Next
I
season
honestly don't know the
we'll
answer
find
to
out.
that.
I just don't agree with you guys that if Fred Hoiberg leaves, you keep the recruiting class.
Well, I'm not saying you
I
do
don't
for
believe
sure.
it.
I'm saying
Yeah.
there's a chance you do.
If you bring in the right guy, if you bring in a guy that, once again, with Nebraska and the money that the pull that they have, I don't care if it's college basketball, money talks at the end of the day.
I
You
agree.
hear it no matter what sport you're trying to find a coach in, money talks. If you get a proven winner, and I'm not saying Nebraska's going to go out and get somebody from Duke. I'm not saying they're going to go out and get a guy from a top program. I'm not saying they're stealing Tony Bennett from Virginia. I'm not saying that.
That'd be nice.
But
That would be nice.
if they get a guy that has a track record of being tied to programs that win,
I mean,
being tied
honestly,
to programs that have postseason
Nick,
experience,
the thing is, though, like Fred Hoiberg can sell that. Not at Nebraska,
you're right.
but Fred Hoiberg can sell that.
You're right. It's tough, though. Unfortunately, the reality of it is, and I was kind of talking to Mark about this earlier today. The tough reality of it is that the flashiness. How do I want to put this? I said earlier today, it's hard. Obviously, full support of Trev Alberts. We've made that very clear. Full support. We're still going to be big time fans of Nebraska basketball, but it's harder to believe that this is going to get turned around after 3 years of the same stuff and no progress.
Look, I understand the frustration.
So
I'm not disagreeing with you guys
I
on
know,
there, but
absolutely.
I think things are happening within the program. Trev Alberts has put his foot down, saying something needs to change. I think there's a sense of optimism with him restructuring the contract.
Mm-hmm.
You know you're keeping the recruiting class, and by all indications, it sounds like the coaching staff, there's going to be a big shift.
Yeah. Yes.
There's optimism in that. So I think a lot of Husker fans are looking at this as we keep Hoiberg, it's going to be a lot of the same, which it could be. There might be nothing that changes, and restructuring that buyout now makes it sound like you probably will move on after next year. But I think there's optimism.
Which it's
Things
wild.
are being put in play to give you optimism.
It's a lot of hoping and praying.
It is.
Yeah.
That's all it is
It
right
is.
now. You can't guarantee that Freddie Hoiberg is going to change his system and change his style of play in a year when he hasn't done it in 3 years. So it's one of those things where you hope restructuring the buyout, letting him know pretty much by the way you're restructuring it, this is your do or die year. You need to make some changes on the coaching staff, on the court, from yourself to get this going, or
you're done.
Or $11 million is going in your pocket.
It is crazy. I do want to bring this up before we get to break. It is crazy the parallel between football and basketball. Now, let me be very clear. Not in terms of competitiveness. I'm not saying that at all, because football competitive, basketball not even close. Now, with that being said, but it's wild to think about that we're sitting here at the and realizing that 5 wins or 6 wins could be good enough or progress in year 5 of a head football coach, and that 11 wins would be progress in year 4 of a basketball coach. Like, It's mind-boggling that we are at that point. But realistically, that's what it is, because 11 wins next year for Husker men's basketball is progress, quote unquote progress.
I don't think that's enough for him to keep his job.
I don't think so either. So then it
is progress, but not enough.
You're right. So then that's what I'm saying. That's exactly goes back full circle, baby. That's exactly goes back with how we opened up the show, Rico, with what amount of wins is enough. Because if it's 14, if it's 15, you have to double what you've been doing the last 3 years. And that is much easier said than done. And so that, once again, there's the parallel. Shows you how much the staff has in front of them. Fred Hoiberg specifically has in front of him before next season and what he has to do next season. And once again, a conference that may be one of the best in college basketball and is always reloading. And through 3 years, his quote unquote system hasn't been successful. It's mind-boggling where we're at.
Let me ask you guys this just real quick. I know you have to go to break, but this has been on my mind a lot. Do you think Bryce McGowan's staying had anything to do with this? Do you think there was some kind of, not ultimatum, that's not the right word, but do you think there's something that's happening in that locker room saying if Hoiberg stays, McGowan stays?
What I was thinking about this, and we'll get to Evan here in a second, what I was kind of thinking about this, I do not like the idea of building your program around one single player for 1 year.
That's what a ton of programs do.
I understand that, but I understand that, but I'm not a fan of keeping a coach that has lost just to keep a player of high caliber to stay.
In basketball,
I don't like making that.
In basketball, you can have a singular player that turns your program around.
Absolutely right.
So if you can tell me Bryce McGowan is going to be better next year, which, I mean, if he works hard, he should get better next year.
Absolutely.
If you can tell me that you get to keep him just by keeping your coach, and you can add on top of that with a legitimate point guard and a legitimate big man, I'm taking that.
I'm not saying there's not reason to be excited for next year if Bryce McGowan comes back or returns. But at the end of the day, we don't know what his decision is going to be.
That's why I just went into my head. That was the first thing that came to mind. And maybe they know something that we don't.
And I will say this. I don't see Trev Alberts being that kind of guy.
That's fair.
I don't see, maybe Bill Moose was, but I don't see Trev Alberts being that kind of guy. From everything we've heard, Trev Alberts is just a patient dude. He's just patient. He understands relationships. He wants transparency. And if you're not all about that, then you can hit the road.
I mean, he did say we're only year 3 into an 8-year contract. We need to see if
patience.
This can go.
And so I just feel like that's kind of Trev Alberts. All right, we got to get to break. We're running quite a bit late. We'll get to Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, talk some Husker baseball. We'll probably get back to this Husker basketball talk coming up in the final segment, but let's get to Evan of the Omaha World Herald next.
Follow Nick and Enrique on Twitter at Nick_Sainert and at Radio Rico AC. More of Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers is all about the good and creating more of it. More drive-through celebrations, more weekend traditions, more family dinners and lunches, more car picnics and road trips, more desserts, maybe more second desserts. More celebrating being together as much as we can. There's always room for more good and more Freddy's. Keep the good going with a taste that brings you back.
You spend more time in your garage than outdoors in the wintertime. Isn't it time to get it organized? Call Travis at Classic Garage Solutions for his variety of organization packages. Turn your garage from a cluttered mess to a clean, organized space that'll be the envy of the neighborhood and something you can be proud of. You don't need to bring the same clutter from last year into the new year. Travis has storage options for cabinets, monkey bar shelving, or slat wall, and more. Call Classic Garage Solutions today at 402-730-1638.
They say one great thing leads to another, and that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a Ready Next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's gonna be great.
Need to send a message? Send it with cake. Congratulations? Here's a congratulations chocolate rum cake from Beatrice Bakery. Thank you? Say thank you with an amaretto cake. I'm sorry that I accidentally hit your mailbox with my car as I was backing out of the driveway and then continued right into your prized petunias. You say that with a lemon drop cake. Everybody knows that. Beatrice Bakery in downtown Beatrice or online at beatricebakery.com. Here to help you say whatever it is you need to say. Welcome to our world of yum.
Are you tired of lousy internet and faceless customer service? It's time to experience local, honest, hassle-free, and exceptional. That's the Allo Promise. We not only provide crazy fast fiber internet, crystal clear TV, and dependable phone service, but we choose to become a part of the communities that we serve and love when everyone calls or stops by our store to say hello. So, don't settle for mediocre, settle for exceptional with Allo. Visit us at allofiber.com/local.
Security First Bank. We're the bank, and we make your mortgage more manageable with flexible terms, trusted advice, and competitive rates. When you work with us, we'll know your name, but we'll also get to know your home dreams too. Security First Bank of Lincoln. Voted best small bank in Nebraska by Newsweek magazine. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. NMLS number 505011.
You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert and Enrique Alvarez Clary on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the Happy Hour, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick and Rico with you. We are going to get to Evan Bland in a moment, but first, here's something here.
This hour of radio is brought to you by Allo. This is the fastest hour in radio, brought to you by Allo. I like my cars, delivery drivers, and internet the same. Fast. I'm talking the kind of fast that delivers equal upload and download speeds, buffer-free streaming, and lag-free gaming. I love me some lag-free gaming. Switch to Allo for 500 meg and 1 gigabit speed options, plus free installations. Free installations always. Call Allo today in Lincoln for residential at 402-480-6550 or for business at 402-480-6500 or chat with them online at allofiber.com.
All right, let's bring in Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. First of all, Evan, hello. How are you?
Hey, guys. Doing well. How's it going?
Not too bad. All right, so we were going to talk Husker baseball right out of the gate, but it was just announced a couple minutes ago, right after we went to commercial break, that the Husker football team loses Feldarius Payne and Will Nixon to the transfer portal. Evan, you kind of had a story on it that I saw. What can you kind of tell us about how this all went down?
Well, it's just part of kind of the reality of college football right now, where you can go and come as you please. And with the new rule that you don't have to sit out for a year, as we know, there's a ton of movement across college football. I mean, we're talking more than 1,000 players that have come and gone through the portal just in this cycle alone. And so, yeah, I mean, with Nebraska, I think this is number 10 and 11 for them that have entered the portal in this offseason. Of course, they've added, quite a few as well, double digits coming out of the portal too. So I think in the macro sense, this is just sort of what college football has become. Mm-hmm. In the micro sense, with these two particular players, it's a little interesting, I would say, in the timing of it, with spring ball starting on Monday and practices getting rolling. You think about how active the portal was in December and early January, and a lot of that was because these players wanted to be somewhere new by the time spring ball rolled around, and so they could enroll and all that. So that's something that Feldarius Payne and Will Nixon won't have the benefit of doing wherever they end up next. But yeah, I mean, Payne was a guy who, in my opinion, was sort of that number 3, maybe number 4 outside linebacker on the depth chart. I mean, you look at Caleb Tanner and Garrett Nelson probably as the starters, but I think after that, Payne was a guy that I considered to be in the mix this spring, and somebody the coaching staff wanted back badly enough that they welcomed him back after he went into the portal in December for about 2 weeks. So that I think that's probably a bigger loss for Nebraska in terms of what Payne brings defensively. And then Will Nixon was another guy who came in the 2020 class, and he was part of sort of that Duck R vision that Nebraska had at the time, sort of the mold of Wan'Dale Robinson, where he could catch balls as a slot receiver, take the occasional handoff. But his recruiters primarily were Troy Walters and Ryan Held, and neither of those two assistant coaches are still on the staff. And you look how the receiver room's been remade with a lot of bigger bodied players under Mickey Joseph at that position. So I think, you can kind of see a lot of reasons why maybe Will Nixon would be looking for a better fit elsewhere. But, again, I think, in the big picture, it's part of the cost of doing business in college football. And you wish those guys the best, and that's just part of kind of the fluid nature of roster management right now.
We're speaking to Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Okay, so spring practice starts Monday, like you said, for football. What position group are you most interested in or curious about?
I would have to say the O-line.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, you're going to need a new center. You'll probably need multiple new interior linemen overall. Obviously, a new position coach with Donovan Raiola being that guy. So it's sort of a multi-layered discussion or ongoing thing to watch. I think is one, in the bigger sense, what is Raiola teaching that is different from how Greg Austin taught? And I think we've gotten a little bit of feedback on what that is. Maybe Austin's scheme was a little bit more zone blocking, where Raiola just wants you to go up and hit the man in front of you and move the guy who's on you. But, how does that play out over the course of the spring? Maybe that technique, how does that affect some of the returning players? Maybe that's something that would click with them better or more profoundly. And then again, in the smaller sense, what can this line look like moving forward? I mean, we know Turner Corcoran and Teddy Prohaska are both out this spring with injuries. So what does that mean for some of the other guys, whether that's Kevin Williams, whether that's Hunter Anthony, both the incoming transfers? How big of an impact can they make in the spring? I've always been a big Henry Latufsky guy, and this is his coming on his third year in the program, and somebody who I personally think can make a pretty big jump, maybe as an interior guy too. And you can kind of go down the line, but I just think it'll be interesting to see what kind of combination that looks like. And then again, what a new voice in terms of a coach, what that can do for some of the existing players as well.
So you're talking about the offensive line, the guy who they're, mostly trying to protect the quarterback. If I take Casey Thompson out of the mix, which quarterback of these three, Heinrich Harburg, Chubba Purdy, and Logan Smothers, are you going to have the closest eye on?
Yeah, that's a good question. And they all have got, different backgrounds, right? I mean, Purdy was Whipple's handpicked number 2 behind Thompson. Smothers has the edge in terms of the guy who's been in the program the longest. And then Harburg, maybe is the most committed guy of all, being the in-state kid, second year, really bright guy who was already showing a lot of signs of leadership and things like that. I think they all sort of have their own interesting storylines in that regard. But to me, there is sort of this idea that of those guys that you mentioned, Purdy is the one who the new staff with Mark Whipple chose to go out and land, and to land as the number 2 guy in the portal after they had gotten Casey Thompson. So they felt strongly enough about Purdy and what he can do, especially as a guy with 4 years of eligibility left, to go ahead and bring him in and add him to the mix. So he's interesting to me. Smothers is one of those guys who, this feels like a spring where he needs to assert himself, and being the son of a coach, I know that that's something he's planning to do, but it's a big spring for him too. And then again, I think Harburg maybe has the most tools of those three. I mean, he's a big guy, big arm, one of the fastest of that group. And so I guess to answer your question, I can't pick one because they're all so interesting in their own way. But if Casey Thompson is the odds-on favorite to be the starter, I think the backup job's wide open right now.
All right, Evan, we're speaking to Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. All right, we'll talk about what I texted you that we were going to talk about before all this broke down. Let's talk Husker baseball. They travel to TCU. You're down in Arlington right now. It's being played at Globe Life, right?
Yeah. Yep. Globe Life Stadium.
Yeah.
The $1 billion home of the Texas Rangers.
That's
Is
awesome.
this your first time there?
Yeah, I mean, the park opened 2 years ago, so
That's
it's a brand
cool.
new deal. It's cold down here, incidentally. It's typically this stadium here is used because it's so hot in Texas, 100-degree plus, and right now it's going to be used for the other reason. So yeah, it's cold first time here, and cool stage for Nebraska, I think, just to play on anyway. And then the fact that it's TCU and a top 25 matchup, I think really adds sort of an appropriate grandness to what this weekend could be.
Okay, yeah, let's talk TCU a little bit because, I mean, Nebraska's coming off of a 1-3 weekend against Sam Houston where it's way too early to hit the panic button, obviously, but their offense struggled and they lose a guy in Jake Buns who for the year, Will Bolt announced earlier this week. I mean, what should Nebraska expect out of TCU? And then how does Nebraska get over the hump of just themselves from last weekend?
Well, TCU, I mean, they're a national brand. There's no way around that. They've been to the College World Series 4 times in the last decade. They've been a national seed pretty consistently over the last 5 or 6 years, regional hosts, all that stuff. So it's a bona fide top 25 team. I think they're 17, depending on what poll you look at. But their staff is interesting. It's generally unproven at the college level, but really high upside arms. One of I think their Sunday starter, Brett Walker, is an Oregon transfer. So they have some high upside arms. And then offensively, you kind of start reading some of the stuff about this team around here. The hesitation before the year was that they might have sort of a top heavy offense where they've got 3 or 4 hitters, and then kind of the rest of the lineup was an unknown. And I think through 4 games for them, that's sort of proven out, where they've got a handful of guys off to a good start, but I think there are outs to be had, especially the further down in the lineup that you go. So again, it's a program with a new head coach. Kirk Sarloos was their longtime assistant. He became the head coach when their previous head coach went over to Texas A&M. So it's a program in some senses that's still settling in, and probably this is the time you want to play them if you're Nebraska. And for the Huskers, it's another opportunity. I mean, nobody was happy with how they played last weekend, offensively, defensively, on the mound. I think, you talk to the coaches and players, they would say they were most disappointed defensively with how they played, with 7 errors, 8 unearned runs. And the reason for that is because that's the thing that you can control the most. Like, you're going to have games where the offense struggles. You're going to have games where, as a pitcher, maybe you don't have your best command, but what they feel like they can control every day is how they are with the glove and throwing, making accurate throws and things like that. And so I would expect to see a bounce back there. The coaches feel like they're going to see a bounce back with the rotation, especially Kyle Perry and Chase Shaneman on Friday and Saturday. And, we'll see how it goes. But typically it is true that these northern teams, after they've had a weekend to get acclimated, to be outside, to get into a rhythm, they do tend to take a step forward. So I would expect Nebraska to be, quite a bit better, or at least more solid than they were last week.
How big of last one before we let you go. How big of a loss is Jake Buns now that we know for sure he is done for the year? I mean, it's an experienced arm in that bullpen. I mean, how big of a loss is it for Nebraska, and who are some guys that you kind of expect to step up and try to fill that void?
Yeah, it's a big blow. I mean, there's no way around it. You look at what Buns did last year. I mean, nobody on the staff had more appearances than he did. He had 20. He had an ERA in the low 2s, which is obviously valuable. But I think beyond just what he did in getting outs was his versatility. I mean, on those 4-game weekends, he was a starter, and he'd give them 3 or 4 innings. And if they needed somebody in the 7th or 8th to pitch a high leverage inning when a game was on the line, like, he came in and for the most part was solid in those roles too. So I think that flexibility part hurt. He could have potentially been a midweek starter for Nebraska this year. He could have continued out of the bullpen, and he was durable too. I mean, up until this point, you could pitch him 2 times on a weekend and feel pretty good about it. But, in his absence, and the coaching staff believes this, and I've heard this all off season, they feel like they are a deep staff. And so the benefit of that, one of them at least, is that when you do have somebody go down with an injury, you have a lot of arms to fill in and to absorb that. And they feel like they have that in guys like Ethan Bradford is a young guy who they feel good about. Emmett Olson is somebody else. Cody Frank probably fits the Buns mold the best in terms of a guy who could be a starter or a reliever. Tyler Martin is somebody else. And so early in the year, a lot of these roles are continuing to be kind of figured out, and as these games go, that's pretty standard in college baseball. But yeah, there's no doubt you feel for Jake personally too. I mean, he's had Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago, and if indeed this is an injury that requires a similar procedure, you just feel bad for him having to endure that again. But by all accounts, he's a baseball player. He's a guy who will have the ability to come back next year in terms of eligibility, and so I think people would not be surprised to see him come back and contribute next year too.
Awesome, Evan. Appreciate the time as always. Enjoy Texas. Hopefully Nebraska shows out. They can win a series against a top 25 program in TCU. Appreciate the time as always. We'll definitely talk to you down the road.
Thanks, guys.
That is Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Appreciate him going a little duo sport there with football and basketball. Once again, if you're just tuning in, Feldarius Payne and Will Nixon have entered the transfer portal. Second time this offseason that Feldarius Payne has entered the portal. Decided to return to Nebraska a couple months ago, and now has decided to re-enter the portal and move on. All right, let's get to the final segment here. We'll talk some Feldarius Payne and Will Nixon, Husker football, what curiosity within positions. We'll do all that and maybe a little more Husker hoops talk next up on the Happy Hour.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day long wherever you are. More of the Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Are you tired of lousy internet and faceless customer service? It's time to experience local, honest, hassle-free, and exceptional. That's the Allo Promise. We not only provide crazy fast fiber internet, crystal clear TV, and dependable care of the communities that we serve, and love when everyone calls or stops by our store to say hello. So, don't settle for mediocre, settle for exceptional with Allo. Visit us at allofiber.com/local.
Rosie Sports Bar and Grill has 2 Lincoln locations that are great for any occasion. If you're downtown for a basketball game or a concert, stop by their newest spot at 10th and P. Don't forget to check out their social media pages to learn about any concerts on stage at Rosie's. If you want to avoid a busy downtown scene, head over to the original Rosie's just south of 14th and Highway 2 for a feeling of your local hometown bar. There's plenty of TVs at both places and great food and drink. What are you waiting for? Rosie Sports Bar and Grill at 10th and P and on South 14th Street.
Fruitcakes are just for Christmas, right? Gosh, I feel sorry for you. I mean, what if we had done that with bacon? Bacon is only for breakfast. We'd never have bacon cheeseburgers. We'd never be able to save a salad by adding bacon bits. We'd never have Brinner. That's breakfast for dinner. Don't limit yourself. Fruitcakes for St. Patrick's Day. Fruitcakes for graduation. Fruitcakes for Thursday. Beatrice Bakery and Grandma's Fruitcakes are perfect for every occasion. Check them out in downtown Beatrice or online at beatricebakery.com. Welcome to our world of yum.
Bagels and Joe is ready for winter with white chocolate raspberry cream cheese, great on any bagel. And try a grilled Italian panini for lunch with ham, prosciutto, banana peppers, and provolone on a sun-dried tomato bagel. Bagels and Joe, 4 Lincoln locations.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by Security First Bank, a relationship you can count on.
Expect sunny skies, and we will slowly try to warm up a bit. We'll see an afternoon high of 28, southwest winds at around 10. Mainly clear tonight, a low dropping down to 13. Our warm-up continues as we head into Saturday with a high of 46 and could approach 60 by Sunday. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Shopping for insurance can be a tedious and frustrating task, but the agents at Brokers Insurance Agency will do the work for you. They have partnered with over 20 of the best insurance carriers in the nation, which allows them to do the shopping all for you. Whether you're looking for business insurance or employee benefits for your company, or you're looking to save money on your home and auto insurance, Brokers Insurance Agency has the agents and solutions to help meet your goals. Call 402-420-5353 or email staff at brokersinsurancenE.com.
They say one great thing leads to another, and that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a ready next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's going to be great.
You know that feeling after a good, hearty meal? The worries of the world just slip away. Time slows down. Nothing but good times and good company. That's what you get with Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Mary Ellen's does food right, with a menu that includes smoked wings, pulled pork, brisket, catfish. And don't sleep on their sides, shrimp and grits, collard greens, baked beans. It's food that makes your heart happy. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul, just east of 27th and Pineland. Let them fix you a plate.
March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's 24-hour helpline at 476-2300 or go to choicestreatmentcenter.com.
Casey's General Store is giving you the chance at winning 2 free tickets to a Nebraska home basketball game this season. Stop by any Casey's location in Lincoln throughout basketball season, enter your name into the registration box, and you'll have a chance to win 2 tickets to an upcoming Nebraska basketball game. Every drawing will occur at least 24 hours before the game that has its selected winner. So make sure to get to any Casey's in Lincoln today for your chance at 2 free tickets for Nebraska men's basketball games.
Now back to the happy hour with Nick Sainert and Enrique Alvarez Clary on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What is the deal with people in this office
Eating
shredded cheese with their hands?
Straight up, just grabbing a handful of cheese and shoveling it down their gullet.
No, Nate, don't turn his mic on yet, because I want to get this out.
Yeah, get your take out.
Here's the deal. Eric brought chili for us.
Shout out, Eric.
And he brought a bag of shredded cheese for the chili. He also brought Ritz crackers. Thank you, Eric.
For the chili.
For the chili. And we have dudes. VJ, I'm calling you out. I hope you're still driving back to Omaha.
Deshaun Jackson.
The cheese is almost gone out of the shredded bag, or the shredded bag, the Ziploc bag. And there's barely any chili that has been taken out of the bowl.
I think
Why?
I'm the only one that's eating chili.
Yes. Why? Because Nathan and VJ think that it's okay to eat shredded cheese out of the bag with their fingers, dump it in its mouth, and then grab some more. The bag's almost done, empty. And it's because of people like Nathan and VJ who think it's okay to be
terrible.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Now I will turn your mic.
What do you want?
You guys need to understand, me and VJ are on the same page. You got to get your protein in. It's too much
It's called
carb.
chili.
There's
Hey,
too much
do you wanna
carbs
know-
in the chili.
You want to know something? There's meat
So
in the
it's
chili.
all about
What's
the
in meat?
protein.
What's in the chili? Meat. What's
It's
in the
all about protein.
Don't tell me you don't like carbs because I just saw you eating another Ritz cracker.
I did have a couple of Ritz crackers.
Okay, so don't tell me you
You
care
got to
about
be careful
carbs.
with Ritz crackers.
Also, too much dairy is bad for you.
I eat a lot of dairy.
Yeah.
I eat a pound of cottage
Oh, trust me,
cheese a
we
day.
can tell.
That is disgusting.
A pound of cottage cheese?
No, that is disgusting.
Yo, a pound of cottage cheese?
What?
It's the
Explain yourself.
It's one of the most efficient forms of protein.
I do enjoy cottage cheese.
You can eat,
but
so I eat,
how do you eat it?
So a pound of cottage cheese
with
right
a
out the
spoon.
tub.
Yeah, with a spoon, man.
So a pound of cottage cheese, I eat it every day. 240 calories.
Yeah.
39 grams of protein.
Are you one of those people? And this is not.
And I eat 1% cottage cheese. It tastes horrible.
Can you imagine this dude
So,
just sitting on his
have you-
couch,
Funneling.
just
Bro,
watching,
I do it at work.
watching ESPN?
I do it at work. The people in my pod have to get up and leave.
I would too. I would smack that tub of
Watch
cottage
it.
cheese out of your hand.
Here's a question: have you ever blended up cottage cheese?
Ooh, no.
So before,
I'm sorry. What?
So I was
of course you did.
I was looking at something here, and they blended cottage cheese and spinach together, and they drank it, and they said it was really, really good.
Nutrition
And apples.
efficiency.
And apples in there as well.
I'm all about the efficiency. I eat the same thing every single day.
Really?
Every day.
Couldn't do it.
Every day.
Couldn't do it.
I used to do that.
You
With
guys
pe-
should
I used
see
to do
me-
that with
I came
peanut butter
here-
and jelly sandwiches on hamburger buns.
Good call.
Hey, we haven't
No.
gotten your
Wheat bread.
opinion
Not
on
a
this.
good call.
Wheat bread.
No,
Have you-
you're a savage.
Rico, can you wait? What's your opinion if I told you? What's your immediate thought if I said that I enjoy peanut butter and jelly on hamburger and hot dog buns better than I do on actual bread?
I mean, I'm okay with that. Like,
Thank
I
you.
understand.
Especially if you're trying, don't want to waste the bread.
Anyways,
hot dog buns.
we just have two savages talking about eating peanut butter and jelly on hot dog and hamburger buns. I don't even know if I want to turn their mics back on. That's just weird. This is weird. Why are you two the way
Rico,
you are?
you would, if you saw what I ate in a day, you would cry.
I don't think I would.
I get 2,400 calories a day,
Okay.
and I eat 225 grams of protein in that.
Okay.
About 45% of what I eat is protein.
Do you look at the labels
Serious.
when you are
Absolutely.
grocery shopping?
Big label guy.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. You guys should have seen me when I was bulking. It was right before I came here.
Bulk season.
Bulk season's over. It's cutting season.
I bulk.
It's bulking season. I was eating
I bulk.
4,000.
That's all I do.
4,000 calories a day. 300 grams of protein.
No way.
Got up to 230 pounds. I weigh 213 now.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I was taking creatine. Oh my god,
Dude, creatine.
I was lifting.
I took it in high school. It's all. I used to do creatine and like pre-workout and everything in high school. That stuff made my heart race.
Oh yeah,
and also it made my skin itch.
Makes your skin itch.
And I looked it
Your
up.
poops aren't right for weeks.
I had to look it up why it's making my skin itch, and it's like an ingredient. It's not bad for you that your skin itches, but it's like a common thing.
And to get the amount of creatine in a scoop, like that you get at the supplement store, you'd have to eat like 7 chicken breasts.
I had to half my scoops because then my skin would itch too much when I lifted.
Creatine will get you big, Rico.
It was unbelievable.
Hey, you come to the gym with me. Nick won't come.
I would come.
When do you go?
He comes when we're working.
I come right. I mean, the middle of the day. I mean, I leave job 1, gym.
Can't do it.
Job 2.
I'm here from 8 till 4. I can't do it.
Get a long lunch break.
Hey, there's something called
gain train, baby.
Let's go at night.
We're on the gain train.
Let's go at night.
I got a 1 hour lunch break.
Okay, see, it just doesn't work out.
I got a 1 hour lunch break from
1 hour.
1 to 2.
We can make that work. Still,
maybe.
Yeah, you get an hour, I get a half hour.
You pay for my membership, I got you.
So, all right, that's all for today. I'm sure on the water cooler there talk Husker hoops. Nate is passionate about that. So is Bach. So we'll listen to them. Enjoy the show. Have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. See ya.
Adios.
You can search online for hours to find the best